Hello, this is Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. This show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to jump in on the show tonight or follow the show on off hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 13 minutes from now. Not one, but two first-time guests to the show, and they will be doing it in the very same segment. The creators of Vindulge.com, the number 4 most popular barbecue and grilling website, according to DerekRiches.com. Mary Kressler and Sean Martin join us for the first time. So Mary is a certified wine expert, what we would call them in the industry, a sommelier. Sean is a self-taught pit master, grill master, loves everything about live fire. Mash these two together. There's a love story somewhere because they're husband and wife. They have launched a website, and it is dedicated to wine. It's dedicated to live fire recipes, mixing and matching those two topics specifically, taking parts of their expertise, mashing them together, and you have Indulge, which is a very popular website, one that I have heard out of that list of 10. I think at last count I had heard 4 out of 10 or something like that. So play a little game with Mary and Sean as we get going here this evening as well. So that's who we have leading off the show tonight, and then 35 past the first hour. Since it is the third Tuesday of the month, we're talking barbecue and grilling business. And that means we're talking with Wes Wright from CookoutNews.com. Just an hour and a half or so ago, Wes quickly hit me up through text message and said, hey, I just posted a brand new article because it's something new that's coming out. I can't confirm a lot of the aesthetics, how it looks, this and that. But we're going to be talking about something leading off Wes's segment that maybe you don't even know about yet. Something called a sear wood. So if you have the Googles up, go ahead and hit up sear wood, see what you come back with, and then see if that matches up with the lead-off topic with Wes Wright, 35 past the first hour. We have some other stuff to get to as well. And then we'll move to the second hour where we will find our third meeting with Podumentary star in 2023. The owner-operator of Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue Trailer in El Paso, Texas, Joe Martinez, joins the show. Last time Joe was on, we talked about open out 3 months. Now we'll talk about month 4 to month 7, something along these lines, and see what that second quarter of business actually looked like. We talked about the build-up in the first meeting. We talked about day 1 out 3 months the last time he was on, and now we'll talk about, what is it like? And remember, this isn't just starting off this calendar year in 2023. He had a handful of months behind him before we actually got started. So This isn't necessarily real-time capture, but it's as close to real-time as you could get, and Joe is great by not hiding or keeping any important information, because just like we did with Rusty Monson last year, and kind of continued on through the second year with him, and then again this year with Joe, if you have an inkling, if it's something that you want to think about doing, then I want to have the experts that are doing it. And it doesn't have to be names that you know. These guys are doing it for a living. They're in it headlong. They know about the costs. They know about the pitfalls. They've experienced them. So if we can at least shine a light on this type of the portion of the industry that you might be thinking about getting into, why wouldn't you want to have that information? And they're experts here, and we do it on the show. And happy that Joe has decided to do it here in 2023. So he'll be leading off the second hour, 14 past, and then closing out the show, our quarterly guest and barbecue editor for Texas Monthly, Daniel Vaughn, joining us. Now, as we close out Joe and as we bring up Daniel, there might be a bit of a mashup segment because Joe was mentioned in the top 25 up-and-coming best new barbecue restaurants that they release in between the Texas Monthly Top 50 list. That comes out every 3 years or whatever it is. It's not every year like Southern Living's barbecue list that they released last week for their top 50. A little bit more strung out. But they provide this top 25 best of list, or new to the barbecue world list. And Joe made it there in El Paso, so we'll try and get a mashup a piece of that if possible, and then we'll talk to Daniel about some other barbecue topics as well, not the least of which is a article on Texas Monthly or tmbbq.com that has him interviewing Joe Haynes, and Joe has a book. Joe is a longtime proselytizer and barbecue historian, tracing barbecue here in the South, not here in Ohio, but in the South back to Virginia. Certainly there's a lot of argument back and forth about where barbecue was founded. They're not getting into this, but what they are talking about, or the new argument or statement that Joe is making and then trying to prove, is that barbecue is solely American. Poppycock to this coming from any type of barbacoa or any other country and then becoming what we know as Southern-style barbecue. No. It was here, born here, raised here. This is our thing. America stakes its claim to barbecue, and that's the book that Joe Haynes has written about. Also, some other topics we'll be talking about with Daniel as well, so that's how the show is laying out. Mary Kressler, Sean Martin coming up here shortly. Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com, and they close the first hour, and then we go to the second hour. Joe Martinez, Daniel Vaughn, if that's enough for you. Don't forget you can follow the show socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to all of you watching through the video streaming platforms, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show, also on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. We have a new YouTube poll question of the week, which is this, that I'm asking everybody tonight. If you listened to Mike Grunwald's interview from last week, whether it was live last Tuesday or during podcast during the rest of the week, has what he said changed your opinion on cell-cultivated meat? And currently 88% of you are saying nope. Fair enough. 12% of you are saying yes, which I have to admit is a little bit higher than I thought it was going to be. Thought we were seeing 100% no. So I am heartened to know that interview at least opened some minds. I saw barbecue realtor to the stars out there in Hawaii, Lance Owen, saying that it did open him up a little bit more to the fact. So we'll keep track of the percentages and try and give you a final tally at the end of the show here this evening. We start here tonight, and we start with the story that keeps on giving. Yet another Memphis in May update. I saw a post by Carol Coletta on LinkedIn where she actually hyperlinked an article about the reshaping of the parks, specifically Tom Lee Park. So I asked a question in her feed. I didn't expect to get an answer whatsoever. However, I did get an answer. So let me set it up for you properly. My question was, Carol, in a recent news article, I read you mentioned the Tom Lee Park was built to the specs that Memphis in May International Festival had given you, but there is no mention of that in the article you link. Tom Lee Park sustained major damage at the event this year, more than any other year of its existence. Why would Memphis in May spec out a park for Memphis River Parks Partnership to build that would cost them so much to repair each year after they have the event. Seems unbelievable, does it not? Well, she replied, and I quote, Greg, the mediation agreement signed by the city, the partnership, and Memphis in May in December 2019 memorialized Memphis in May's specs. It is not a secret document. It has been printed in the media and was on our website. The design review committee, which included Memphis in May's operations director, reviewed the project throughout its development to make sure specs were met. The partnership did not develop the specs. The partnership does not run the festival. Memphis in May had final plans 2 years in advance of its 2023 festival. The Memphis in May board was fully briefed a year in advance on the risk of damages to a partially completed park. Always happy to have the opportunity to share facts. I immediately, of course, replied back to that post and said, hey, please direct message me. Let's trade emails. Would love to have you on to talk further about this on the show. Have I gotten an answer since then? But at least I got an answer. If you're keeping track of or tabs on this whole fiasco, one side of the puzzle is looking pretty good. The other side, which rhymes with Memphis in May, looking pretty bad. Now, I did send a email out to Memphis in May, asked them to reply back. In true fashion, I have gotten no reply back. In fact, the email that I got back when I sent it over the weekend was, I'm out of the office. Try again later. Try again later? All right, Mary and Sean are ready to go. Before we get to them, I'll talk to you about Pits and Spits, and I'm asking you a question. You tired of settling for mediocre grilling experiences? It's time to step up that game, bring the ultimate flavor and cooker to the backyard barbecues. Pits and Spits, charcoal grills offering the highest quality live fire cooking experience that you can get in the market today, using either wood or charcoal. Their solid fuel grills produce those classic flavors you're looking for when you have the time to fire up the grill, cook for family and friends. With a large adjustable fuel tray, you can raise and lower that fire to control and fine-tune the heat, their take on the very popular Santa Maria-style grill. You can check them out at this custom website, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central Show. And remember, that's a double T on the Pits and the Spits. So once again, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. And as you're checking out with one of those premium charcoal drills, use promo code Charcoal Central to save $150 off any grill. Again, that's Charcoal Central for $150 off any grill. Pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central Show. No, /BBQ Central. And then at checkout, when you buy a charcoal grill and you know you're going to love it, $150 off. Charcoal Central is the code to use at checkout. We are back with Vindulge. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. You visit cookinpellets.com for more information, and then when you're ready to purchase, you go to amazon.com or lowes.com or walmart.com. All the same great flavors that you find on cookinpellets.com, except great shipping rates. Come on, you got to do it. Great folks over at cookinpellets.com. Have you been looking for a barbecue and grilling website that will help with recipe inspiration, also teach you about wine? Of course. My next guests run the fourth most popular barbecue and grilling website, according to our pal Derek Riches from DerekRiches.com, and we're going to talk about all of that. We welcome first-time guests Mary Kressler and Sean Martin to the show. All right, gang, before we get into it tonight, we have a YouTube poll question of the week, and I'm asking everybody this. Now, of course, I have to preface this by saying, if you didn't listen to the show last week, just guess yes or no. But assuming you listened, did Mike Grunwald's conversation about cell-cultivated meat last week change your position, whatever that might be, on cell-cultivated meat, yes or no?
I would have to say it drove some curiosity, so I would say yes. I've never tried it. I don't know, though. So there's all of the answers.
Mary, yes or no?
I did not listen to the podcast last week, so I'm fired. But Sean filled me in. And right now, I would say I'm also very curious. I have not heard of that at all, so I am actually quite curious.
All right, good. 85% of the voting public are saying they have no interest, and it did not change their mind, and they don't want to hear about it. So that's why I will continue to talk about it, because we're here to change minds and reach across aisles. Mary, let's start with you, and we'll get into the Indulge here in just a second. But a little background on you professionally, how you get into Oregon, how you become a wine expert, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I think how we got into Oregon and wine, we were living in San Francisco prior to Oregon. And when I was in San Francisco, I was in graduate school. I thought I was going to become a professor. On the weekends, we would go out to wine country, to Sonoma and Napa. And that's where I started learning about wine and became very interested. At the same time, I was also really interested in cooking. We were dating at the time, and we're just, I think, almost newlyweds, and just really curious about wine and food. And then by the time we moved out to Oregon in 2006, burnt out from graduate school. So I said, you know what? I'm really interested in wine. I'm just going to go work at a winery for a summer and just see what happens. And then I got bit by the bug and really never went back to school. And I kind of kept staying in the wine industry. And that's what brought us to Oregon as well.
When I was talking about you guys in the open, Sean, we'll get to your background here in just a second. I had mentioned that you are also a sommelier. What kind of a process is that like? Is that years and years of just drinking nonstop wine, or how does that go?
Pretty much. No, there are quite a few different organizations you can go to become certified, to become a sommelier. The one I was going through at the time was service-based, for service focused. So it was for folks that were in the service industry. I'd spent probably 10, 15 years working in hospitality, various restaurants. And so I felt like that was the route I wanted to go. And in that organization, there are 4 levels, with the highest being master sommelier, which I did not make it to that level. Those are people who have been studying for years and years and years and go through a very rigorous training that they tell me is much like getting a law degree. There is another one that's more education focused. So I have experienced in both. The one that's more service focused, where if you were going to work in high-end restaurants for many years, you would go that route. Otherwise, if you wanted to become an educator, you would go the other route. And so I have experience a little bit on both, using both routes.
Sean, what's your background?
Well, I'll work backwards. So I'm full-time with Indulge now as of March 13th of 2020. At the time, I thought it was the greatest decision I'd ever made to have my wife as my boss, my business partner, and my roommate. And we can go a while on that one. But prior to that, I was an insurance executive in the property casualty insurance space. So I ran a large client group with an insurance company based in Connecticut. And after 20 years of that, I thought, we've been cooking. Mary started the blog in 2009, and I became a supporting part of that. I thought, let's go all in. Our cookbook was coming out at that point. So I thought, this is a great time to make the jump.
I remember talking with Todd and Susie Bullock a number of years ago, maybe the first time they were on, and I'd asked Susie at the time, so geez, it's a lot of you, it's a lot of Todd. It seems like you're never not with each other. I'm sure there's times when they're not doing whatever they're up to, but from an outsider's looking in perspective, it seems like they spend a lot of their professional and a lot of their personal life together. And I don't know if that's something everybody wants to get into. Why does it work for you, Mary, to be so connected to Sean in pretty much every way?
I think from the time we were dating, which was 1999, we have always kind of talked about running a business together. For the longest time, we wanted to run a summer camp together, then a bed and breakfast together. And all of these business ideas have come and gone. And once we really connected on food, and we've been cooking together since 2007, 8. And then once we got into barbecue and grilling, that's when I think we really hit our stride. And we just had a lot of fun together. We work well together. We have very different skill sets, so I don't think we step over each other's toes. And when he was working in his previous career, it was the opposite of what's happening now. He was gone. I mean, 80-90% of his job was traveling. And we have 12-year-old twin boys. So during the time that they were babies, he was never around. And so I think this is a way for us to be together as a family. Although it's, like I said, it is the opposite. So now it's a little too much time together. So he likes to joke that I kicked him out of the house and he now works here. We're in our barn studio, which is also his office, because I told him I just can't be around him 24 hours a day now. So we have to have some boundaries and we have to have a little separation. But I just think there was just something about it. We've always kind of wanted to see if we could work together. And we have been we started a catering company in, I think, 2014, 15. And we've been working together doing that until he quit his other career and now works with us. So we have been playing around working with each other for several years. And I just think we know each other's strengths.
Sean, what's it like if it gets chippy? What's the best way to manage that? What have you found that is the best way to be able to coexist with your work partner and your wife?
Besides therapy?
Yes.
I'd probably say the ability for us to take off our personal relationship hat and kind of have cues to say, okay, today I want to talk about something that has been frustrating for me. Maybe it was we didn't get enough content out, or Mary might have a different idea or direction where she wants to go with maybe anything from content to a sauce to a dry rub. And I think it was hyper focused during COVID because in addition to that whole experience, our kids were at home virtually from school. So I'd say the last year has been where we've hit our stride, and we're still married, which I'm very proud of. And I think to Mary's point, one of the things I've always been aware of is that she started the brand in 2009. And yes, I cook and I love being part of the creation process, but I've always tried to remember that I defer to her because she put the sweat equity in the beginning when people thought blogs were online diaries, and some of them were. And so I just try and keep that kind of front and center when we have maybe some domestic disagreements or professionals.
Were you guys aware that Vindulge is the 4th most popular barbecue and grilling website, according to my pal Derek Riches from DerekRiches.com?
Yeah, we were aware when that first article came out a couple years ago, and that definitely surprised us at the time. I don't think we realized that we were kind of right there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've discovered is we were so slow with how we grew that I don't think we ever realized how many people interacted with us virtually, compounded on 2 years of virtual interaction. So I would say I was surprised because we love Susie and Todd. We're friends with them. They put out amazing content. Their success, I think, has paved the way for a lot of other online live fire entrepreneurs as well. But I don't think we realized how big we were until then. And since then, and his updated article, it just keeps us grounded on, hey, we're here to create content for our audience. Sometimes that can get distracting with SEO and the shiny penny of the moment or other things. But yeah, I think between social media and the website, there's probably 4 to 5 million interactions a month for us. And when we go to events, now that we travel around the country doing events, that's where it's hit us. Like, oh my God, I love you guys. And I love this recipe. And we just try to make sure we always remember to just honor that and really appreciate it. So it was really cool to see it and to see the other people too.
All right. So You dovetailed into the game show portion of the interview. I'm going to name all 10 top 10 most popular barbecue and grilling websites. And you tell me if you've ever heard of these websites before. And don't lie, because we're going to know if you're lying. Number 10, JessPriles.com.
Yes.
Right? Number 9, Or Whatever You Do.
Yes, that would be Nicole, and she lives up in Seattle, and she does some great content on especially pellet cookers.
All right. Number 8, Gimme Some Grilling. Yes or no?
Yes.
Wow. Number 7, Food, Fire, and Friends. Yes or no?
I hadn't heard of that one until you mentioned it.
Now we're getting into it. Number 6, Cat Heads Barbecue. Yes or no? No. Okay. Number 5, a fledgling website called AmazingRibs.com.
Oh.
Yes? All right.
Yes.
Of course. Meathead, yes. Number 4, Vindulge.com. Yes, of course. Of course. This one's always a little herky for me. Number 2, Smoked Barbecue Source.
Yes, as of recent, yes.
Yeah, so
right.
we didn't know who they were until Derek actually put out his first article, and then we were like, "Who are these guys?" And started looking at their website and their product reviews, and it's been fun to kind of watch how they've grown. They continue to be a pretty large one in terms of website traffic. What we've learned too is sometimes we focus too much on how many page views we get, and not about the other interactions we have between email and such. So I'm always curious, like with Smoked Barbecue Source, what they're like what I don't always have an appreciation for is what is their actual angle. That's one where I'd love to get to know them more, but we don't know them personally. We just know the site.
Of course, number 1, Hey Grill Hey. You've mentioned you're big fans of Susie and Todd. So are we here at the show, and by we, I mean me. So that's the game show portion. You knew more than I thought. I played with Jess Priles. She knew like Amazing Ribs, Vindulge, Smoked Barbecue Source, Hey Grill Hey. Or I guess I should say she knew as many as I did. There was a lot that I had never heard of before. Some of them didn't seem like they were necessarily updated or they had gone out of business. So always interesting to see that list when Derek generates it. Now, back to real business at hand. Over time, you talked about the slow growth or seeing these interactions, now appreciating them. How have you been able to stay relevant? I mean, 2009 to 2023, we're looking at 14 going on 15 years. How you're staying relevant, and what do you think the biggest change has been since you got into this whole side of the business?
I think for me, and staying relevant is just experimenting with new, changing times, right? Like there was a time that blogs just had pretty photography. So I had to learn how to take really nice photos. And then it switched to videos. And then it was this whole period of those like hands and pans, top down photography, 1-minute videos that went viral on Facebook. So if you didn't start doing that, then you could get left behind. So it's really learning that. And then new social media platforms come out. So it's really just not getting annoyed when these new things happen. It's really just embracing them and testing things and trying things and trying to make full-length videos. And if things aren't perfect, that's okay. You have to just try and get your stuff out there to however people are watching the content. There was a time that people were reading. Now they wanted video. Now they want 1-minute videos. They want stuff on TikTok or YouTube Shorts. So it's really, what does the audience want and how do they want it and how can we get it to them in the platform that they want it? So I think it's really exhausting sometimes, but it's really about trying to meet people where they are, also expanding. So we have stuff online, but that's not the only way you can connect with people. We like to do events. So we've done a lot of catering. We've done a lot of big national events. And even now, I think coming out with a cookbook and a product line. So I think it's constantly growing and expanding and trying new things, so that you're not just kind of a one-hit wonder, I guess. What would you add?
Yeah, I think it's especially for me, just always being curious. I mean, by background, I didn't really get into live fire cooking until probably 2004. and had a Traeger as my first pellet grill. I also had a Weber kettle, and was self-taught. And I think it just came down to always asking why is this working the way it does? Why is this myth still prevalent? Is it real? Is it not real? And I think to keep ourselves relevant in terms of all the hardware, I mean, my God, how many people are making new hardware out there, whether it's a grill or grill top or different styles of whatever. I think for us, it's just staying curious and making sure if we have a question or if our audience has questions, can we provide them the most insight we can and still stay relevant? And I will be the first to admit that there are times where we've been caught up in the SEO bug where we're writing content for the algorithm and it's dry and not necessarily putting forth anything different than maybe what others are doing. And we had to do a little self-reflection to make sure that we went back to, okay, like, why does this myth exist, or why does this perspective exist? And is it true or not? And do our own experimentation. And I think that's been important too.
Mary, you had mentioned that you were getting into some other items, books and products. Specifically, there's a new barbecue sauce that is wine forward, if you will. I don't know a lot of barbecue sauces that have a wine component. One of my pals, fellow Cleveland Browns fan, as hard as that is to say since last night, Sam Hayes out in your neck of the woods from Sam's Northwest Barbecue said that he's had the barbecue sauce and raved about it in an email to me today when he heard you guys were going to be on. He's a big fan. Tell me a little bit about bringing a wine forward barbecue sauce to market and where you look to fit a niche on that.
Sure. I think the sauce originally came about because we were doing catering events in Oregon's wine country, and Oregon produces a lot of Pinot Noir. So a lot of really heavy, spicy, sweet barbecue sauces don't lend themselves to pairing with a light, elegant wine like Pinot Noir. So we wrote a recipe several years ago called a Pinot Noir barbecue sauce, and it's a recipe that's been on our website. It's in our cookbook. But then flash forward to 2020, we had some pretty bad wildfires here in Oregon, one of which was about a mile from our house. Like I said, we live in wine country surrounded by vineyards. A lot of the neighboring wineries couldn't make red wine with the grapes that they harvested that year because the fires were happening right at the beginning of September, which is peak harvest season, right before they were about to pick the grapes. So when they actually picked the grapes, harvested the wine, it was a little bit smoky. It took on a little of that smoke flavor and kind of damaged the integrity of the wine that they wanted to make. So instead of making a $60, $70 bottle of Pinot, many of the wineries decided not to make wine that year at all. Knowing a lot of the winemakers, we thought, well, hey, we have this recipe. What if we take some of your wine, if we buy the wine from you so you don't have to, dump it down the drain, and we make a product with it? So we went to trial and we started doing trials of barbecue sauce to see if we could take that recipe and make something that we could take to market. And a few weeks later, we've got our barbecue sauce. Do you have a bottle of it right there? So we've got this just came up like just a few weeks ago. We just brought this to market. This is our red wine barbecue sauce made with local grapes impacted by the 2020 wildfires.
We do like to point out the first ingredient is red wine. I think, and we like that because I think sometimes when we've tasted certain sauces, and obviously when you go through the sauce and seasoning process, you're hopefully tasting a lot to see, like, is mine going to be really any different? Or why do I like this or not like this? And we found that a lot of the bourbon sauces or the alcohol sauces were very brown booze driven, and it was the last ingredient. Well, and I could maybe appreciate that for hard liquor, but we did want it to be a true to what we like, which is wine flavor profile. So that was something that was important to us too.
When you're getting it from a co-packer, I assume you have to go through that whole process. But once you strike a relationship there and you start getting samples, is it a pretty quick process to get something that you think is workable to bring to market?
Yeah, a lot quicker than I imagine. I thought when we started the process that it would take several weeks, and we really just did a few trials and they were ready to roll. It was slower on our end because we had to get the labels done, and that took longer for us.
Yeah, a funny story is she called me 3 days after we dropped off the wine and she said, your bottles are ready. and I went down with my truck, and I realized that my truck can't carry that many pallets.
Oh.
So it gives you a perspective on how fast they can turn it around, and they do a great job. And as we scale up, we hope to continue to leverage them, because we try to keep everything as local as possible to keep the dollars in our market. So a lot of the ingredients are from local sources, so that the bottle price is a little higher. It seems that people have been okay with it. And it just is kind of part of our story about just wanting to support local communities. And I think the other thing about wineries people forget is that most wineries, at least in Oregon, are small farms. They're not making 100,000 cases a year. They're making like 2,000 or 500 cases. So when something like the fires happened, it really caused several to say, am I going to be in business next year? So it was important for us to do as much as we could. I mean, I wish we could have done more, but there was only so much capacity we had to self-fund making thousands of bottles. But it was a great experience. And honestly, I thought, okay, we can do this now. We got over the first hurdle. Now let's get like a line of sauces and seasonings every year.
We're talking with Mary Kressler and Sean Martin from Vindulge, Vindulge.com. Is the sauce available for sale on the website for people that were listening or get it on podcast later?
Yep, it's available on our website, and it's also available locally here in the Portland, Oregon region as well at several retail shops.
Yeah, so Sam, if you want to sell it, just send me an email. I'm available.
That's right. That's the way to try drum up business as we close out the segment. I certainly appreciate that. Sean Martin and Mary Kressler, Vindulge.com, the website. Guys, really appreciate the time here this evening, and look forward to having you back on sooner than later.
Thanks. It was great to be on.
That's Sean and Mary. What? What did you win? Yeah? To where? Atlantis? Wow. All right. Wow. We're winning all over the show. Oh. All right. That was Mary and Sean. Vindulge.com is the website. And we have Wes Wright ready to go here in just 1 second. We'll get to him here. Before we get to him, we'll talk to you about Primo ceramic cookers. Boy, oh boy. No bigger fan of ceramic cookers than me. And Primo leads the list. That's right. Why? Multiple reasons. Oval number one, so you're able to stage a 2-zone fire. So you can push the coals over to one side, you can put the meat on the other side. Look, if you really want to get crazy, you can put in the divider that comes with it. So now you definitely have a fire section and a non-fire section. Then you can get the deflector plates if you want and set up a whole situation of 2-zone fires like you've never done before on any ceramic cooker. And what I've come to find out, as I tell you each and every week now, the more and more I'm cooking on it, it does appear after the ceramics get hot to provide a nice, humid cooking environment. But there's no water pans or infusion of water or weirdness like that. Not that water's weird. It's great. So your bark is nice, but it's not dried out in a jerky style fashion. If you like that, I don't know what to say. But I don't know a lot of folks that like the jerky bark per se, or at least not on everything. This one is nice. And, of course, fuel misers. You load it up with charcoal, you can get 2-3 cooks out of it before you have to reload again, depending on what you're doing. So, big fan. Only sold through dealers. That's primogrill.com. Find a dealer near you, primogrill.com. And you can check out all the different size ovals that they got. You buy the one that's best for you. Wes Wright is next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Mary Kressler and Sean Martin for joining us last segment. Vindulge.com, their website. This portion brought to you by Fireboard. If you want to monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously, connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or Bluetooth if you must. You can do that with the Fireboard. Also, they have the instant read meat thermometer. There's also a one-channel Fireboard called the Fireboard Spark. Go to fireboard.com, find out more, or purchase. My next guest tonight, creator of cookoutnews.com's website, the third Tuesday of the month, regular guest, 35 past the first hour. We are welcoming back our pal, Wes Wright. Wes, before we talk about some breaking news, we have a YouTube poll question of the week. And I'm asking everybody this. Listening to Mike Grunwald's interview last week has changed your opinion on cell-cultivated meat, yes or no?
Well, I'll lead with a no. I thought it was a great interview and interesting, but it still just kind of weirds me out.
79% of folks are saying no matter how great the interview was or interesting or mind-blowing, whatever. Not good enough to put them over the edge of curiosity, so almost 80%. Not surprised that it's, I thought it'd still be a little bit higher than that, but we'll see how it trends for the rest of the show. Breaking news, I guess. So we'll do this.
BBQ Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that makes breaks the most live-fire breaking news across the country. Nay, the globe. And we go to Detroit, roughly, and go to Wes Wright for this breaking news. Wes, what's happening?
Yeah, so on your show way back in winter, we talked about the Searwood trademark from Weber, which we speculated was a new pellet grill.
Yep.
Well, there's a overzealous hardware store online that posted what appears to be a new Weber Searwood pellet grill. There's no pictures. I found one based off of a side shelf that they also have that's really blurry and kind of crappy, but yeah, it appears that that's going to make it to market is my guess. I mean, it'd be pretty shocking if it didn't at this point.
What were the overall features, or let me ask a better question. What would make this better than the smoke fire that's currently available?
To me, it looks just like a replacement for the two cheapest models of the smoke fire. I couldn't see the controller to see if they're doing anything with that to change that around. I don't think so. The feature list sounded a little disappointing. It was the same temperature range. The only thing that might be new and different is it sounds like it might have an easier clean out for the ash and grease. Before, the smoke fire has a tray, and you had to scrape it into the holes, but it says it's new and improved. So, we'll see what that actually is. Other than that, I mean, it looks pretty similar. It doesn't have that, it still has a barrel shape, but doesn't have that like banding on the sides of the barrel, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But so it would make sense that it'll, come out relatively soon and replace, my guess is it'll replace, what is it, the EX4 and EX6, something like that.
I remember when this was initially being rolled out, I had, who was then Kevin Coleman at the time, talking about how great the smoke fire was going to be. And one of the unique features was going to be this kind of groundbreaking ash system. So the ash was just going to fall down. It was going to be real easy clean out. You didn't have to bust the guts out like you have to do with every other cooker, more or less. Some have some vacuum. I think like Green Mountain Grill has the vacuum port on the side, make it a little easier. But a lot of the other ones, you got to take the guts out and get at it with a shop vac. This was going to change the game in that regard, but didn't really pan out that way, I guess.
Yeah, if they're trying to update it, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest though, I don't really mind shop vac. It's like 3 pieces to take out of your grill and you just vacuum it for a second. It's not too hard. Like they act like it's, revolutionary that you pull a canister out or something, but to me it's not such a big deal.
Do you think this is going to put the pellet cooker for Weber on the map to some degree? Because I think we would all agree that the smoke fire was more or less an unmitigated disaster from Jump Street.
If it comes out just as it appears to, which, anything can happen between now and if it actually does come out, it seems just like another run-of-the-mill pellet grill. So I wouldn't imagine it would. It's not like it's, like a new flagship model. It's just another, $1,000, $1,400 pellet grill, which, there's a lot in that space. So I don't think it'll really move the needle for them.
Do you anticipate some type of big announcement or social media run?
Yeah, I would imagine they'll do something when they, 2024 is supposed to be the big year. I don't know if that means they're going to start announcing grills soon though, and then, just for the 2024 season. But I would imagine, they'll hype it up on social media when it does come out.
Is this dealer kind of a dick for doing this? Just trying to show, look what I got, or maybe I have one in stock, or maybe I don't. I'm just trying to gain a little steam here any way I can.
I think what it is, and I saw this with Traeger when they rolled out their griddle, is I think it's just really hard to coordinate with all these dealers to have stock. So when Weber makes the announcement, okay, this is the new grill, you can buy it. They needed to have that at all the dealers, which means all the dealers need to have product, have it ready to go, and also have it on their website. I think they just are not great at technology, maybe, or they just didn't think Google would scrape it the way they do. But yeah, it's a recurring thing that happens where I see grills come out in Google search before, just if you know the name of them, from trademarks, they come out before they're actually out. What's actually funny. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say what's funny too is you can actually add it to the cart. I didn't risk $1,000 to see if it would ship, but you can add it to the cart.
Wow. Wes Wright joining us here on the show. Cookoutnews.com is website. You wrote an article at the end of last month, and we talked about how grill companies get direct-to-consumer and affiliate marketing wrong. What prompted you to write the article in the first place?
Probably a little bit of frustration, but also just
like firsthand frustration on your part.
Yeah. So my website, I don't get a ton of money from affiliate revenue, but I always try to route to the direct to the rather than going to a retailer. I always try to route links to the brand itself. Like it's just a courtesy kind of, whether or not they realize that. But so I always directly link to them. So then they came out like right before the grilling season start, like early May, late April. I don't remember, something like that. Some of the, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about exact rates, but some of the biggest names in grilling will say all of a sudden lowered their rates to like a 2 to 3% commission, which is below like what Amazon will give you every single day of the week, which is, so some of it was just frustration that they did that, but also it was, I don't know if they quite understand the model of what they're doing there. And so I know a number of companies read my website, so I was hoping that I could inform them on what they're trying to accomplish with actual like affiliate marketing, like how it works.
So if some of these companies aren't doing it right, or maybe they're not doing it at all, but they see a potential benefit here, in your estimation, what's the best way to go about setting up an effective affiliate marketing campaign or program?
Well, first, so, I'll back up a little bit. The reason why affiliate marketing and direct-to-consumer D2C are intertwined is the way it works is, so let's say you Google for, a Weber smoke fire grill, right? Your results, most of them up top are going to be from retailers. So logically, if you're looking to buy, you'll click one of those. But let's say me or someone else writes like a review or a post about it, and they click mine instead of a retailer because I beat out all the retailers by having a better website for it. Then they don't have to pay that, rather than wholesaling it at what's probably 20 to 30% of the overall ticket. They just buy it from me direct. They pay me a few percentage points, and they, it's a win-win for everybody. They get more marketing out of me. They get more money. It's great. So I think that what they need to do it right is understand that they're competing with retailers, and that's why you have affiliate marketing. It's not just so that way you can reward people for writing articles. It's that you're actually competing with retailers and you want to beat them. And the retailers like Walmart or Amazon or any of the big box stores like that, they're great at competition. That's what they do. So ahead of the grilling season, what Amazon do, they more than doubled their rate for what they pay on grills, So logically, everyone that's writing a grill article is going to say, okay, well, I'll link to Amazon because they'll pay me, 2 to 3 times what the actual grill company pays me. People are more likely to check out, and also they're going to have a bigger ticket because you'll be, do you want to buy, some other accessories or something else, a household item, you'll throw it all on. So you get a bigger ticket, a bigger commission off that. So what they need to do is understand that and beat Amazon and Walmart and have a higher commission rate than what they're paying, so more people want to link directly to them and they can get a bigger chunk of the pie.
What's a standard commission percentage? Is it 5% or 8%?
Yeah, usually the companies will pay 5. Some of the pizza oven companies will pay as high as 10, whereas retailers usually pay anywhere like, from like 1 to 3. It's usually pretty low because they're already, they're greedy too. But
why not, if you're a grill company looking to get in on this and really break the mold here or break out of whatever commonplace is, why not jack a commission up 15%, maybe 20%? Because I can't imagine they're selling more grills through affiliate marketing than whatever their other main pulls through are. Here's some cream on the coffee, if you will. So incentivize, you as a potential affiliate and anybody else that's doing it. Sure, you're paying more, but I mean, wouldn't that encourage more motivation on your end to push the grills?
yeah, I completely agree with that. Most of the grill companies don't do a lot of D2C. I'd have to look back. I'm actually going to try to write an article about D2C rates, which like 1% of people find interesting. But I know like Blackstone, when they filed to IPO in 2021, they like 5% of their business was D2C. So it's pretty low. But if you look at like highly competitive products, like outside of the grilling industry, like one that jumps in my mind is like nutrition supplements. They pay like really high commission rates because it's so competitive, and that's the way they do it to get people to create content about their products. So yeah, that's the winning way to do it.
We've talked a number of times about various outdoor pizza ovens that have come to market, but now we're seeing more options for the inside as well. What are the best indoor pizza oven options right now?
Yeah, there's some really expensive ones that, people swear by. Uni came out with a Volt earlier this year, which looks pretty nice. It's supposed to perform just like their outdoor oven. It gets 900 degrees, and it's supposed to have active cool down too, so it doesn't, burn down your house. But it's $1,000, so it's, not a cheap product. I don't love cooking pizza indoors enough to spring for that. But Cuisinart actually just came out with a indoor pizza oven a week or two ago that's, gets to 700 degrees, has a lot of the same features, but it's only $400. So I'd be interested in trying that one out.
You got to put these things on their own circuit. They're going to trip something out getting up that high, or they just have that technology to do it?
You probably don't have to. It's probably suggested. That's one thing with the kitchen too, is, when I've tested electric grills outside, what I've noticed, if like I have a fridge in my garage, and if I have that running with the grill, it heats up way slower. So, but if I take everything off the circuit and then standalone, it goes faster. So my guess is it'll still work. It probably won't trip anything, but it'll just be slower to get up to temp.
You still using that Franklin barbecue pit?
Yeah. I've only been able to use it a couple times since I last talked to you, just because, back to school and all that stuff. But yeah, it's it's great. I'm going to write an article not only about the pit, but there's like little details I've seen since owning it. Like I love that the casters on it are actually created by them, and they have little like flames on them. There's just little details on it like that, which if you like can appreciate craftsmanship, you're like, wow, that's really cool.
How easy for the few times that you've cooked on it, there seemed to be some internet scuttlebutt about, I don't want to have a fire door that has words and holes in it. I want to have dampers. I want to be able to control the air intake. Aaron seems to be antithetical to that thought. He wants, in his mind, he has made something that gives you the perfect airflow. Shut the door, shut up, and just tend your fire. I'm not talking for him, but that seems to be the concept behind it. Do you find that is the case? You get the influx in that you need?
Yeah, I usually cook with it propped open slightly even. He's talked about it too, where you don't want to close it off because that just means that you're going to end up burning a dirty fire. You'll get, more dirty smoke with it. What I do, because I'm not an amazing offset cooker. So what I do if I burn a little hot, I just either rake the coals back, or I usually have like my old Weber kettle sitting next to my Franklin. And so that way, if I need to take a couple of coals off, I just throw it in there for a little bit until, I can correct my error. So, and that way the fire keeps burning clean and keeps burning strong. But I've never, like, it's so easy to operate that is a very rare occurrence where, it's almost like, when you see people operate big offsets, it's like a locomotive, like it just gets up to temp and just, powers through. So you don't end up really burning like super hot fires that do that.
What's going to be the biggest news story to happen before the next time we talk?
I think we'll start seeing some grill releases before the next time we talk, which I'm excited about. And including Weber, they released a new Q over in Australia and New Zealand. I'd love to see that in the US. I'm a little confused why it didn't come out in the US, but I think you'll start, between that and their new pellet grill, I think you'll see some other grill releases.
You should be heading over to cookoutnews.com and seeing what Wes is writing about, get privy to all the late-breaking stuff, and you can see him here on the show once a month on the third Tuesday, 35 past the first hour. Wes, always appreciate the time, and we'll see you in October.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
That's Wes, right? I agree. I'm a little pondering on what... A little pondering? I'm pondering why Weber released some of the new Qs overseas, not here. Maybe that's going to be some of the stuff they're going to be rolling out here shortly. Who knows? Hey, speaking of Franklin's Barbecue Pits, they're the newest sponsor of the show. We know that. Franklin Pits are for the barbecue purists who want to take their craft to the next level. Skillfully made right here. The good old US of A with American-made steel. Built to last, built with purpose. What you have with the Franklin Pit, a deeply thought out and refined version of the old propane-style cooker that he uses in his restaurant. Stylistically, it reflects the bare-bones, industrial, handmade aesthetic that he loves. The patina, the way that the build is allowed to be showcasing the welds, the craftsmanship. Now, schematics of a Texas offset pit, not necessarily complicated. However, what's happening inside the pit is complicated. Dynamics of physics, chemistry. There's few moving parts, but there are numerous and massive differences between the Franklin Pit and the average barbecue smoker. And of course, we know thickness and heaviness of material is number one at the top of this list. You need that. You need it to maintain heat and retain heat, especially in colder environments. You need to be able to stand up to the heat that this offset is putting out, and quite simply, the thin stuff does not do that. If you're spending $300 on an offset pit, I got bad news. It's not going to work out. If you're going to be near Hartville, Ohio, this coming Saturday on the 23rd, I have some major news. If you're thinking about getting a Franklin Pit, you live around here or you're within 3 hours, come to Grill Fest. There's going to be one at Hartville Hardware, believe it or not. I'll do my best to answer any questions about the pit if you see me there. But they're going to have some experts on hand as well over there at Hartville. You love the Hartville Hardware Grill Fest. But a Franklin Pit will be on scene Saturday, September 23rd. So if you have any questions, do it. Otherwise, hit the website, franklinbbqpits.com. That's franklinbbqpits.com. And we'll be back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
We thank Wes White for joining us the last segment. Wes Wright, did I say that correctly? Cookoutnews.com, his website. And just to reiterate on the read, if you're going to be around Hartsville, Ohio, or you're within the driving radius and your antenna's up for a Franklin barbecue pit, but you want to see it and touch it first, there's going to be one at the Hartville Hardware Grill Fest on Saturday, September 23rd. So stop by. You'll see me, you'll see BBQ. I'll talk to you all about it here in just a few minutes. It'll be great. But yes, there will be one on scene. All right, that puts a wrap on the first hour. We have a great second hour coming up, so stay tuned for that. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Doug Scheiding, the Rogue Cookers, Texas embedded correspondent. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me! Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wieners.
Well, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
Welcome to the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central show. We talk about live fire items, breaking news, not breaking news, recurring news, news that seems to never end, great interviews, top-notch information and entertainment right here. By the way, not to toot my own horn, but the entertainment value, this is across all podcasts. I'm not just saying we're the most entertaining podcast across live fire podcasts. Unquestioned. I'm talking about the Sebastian and Pete Show, Joe Rogan, I'm Your Daddy, other podcasts that are much bigger than mine that I can't think of. My entertainment value is at least as good as theirs. And some even better, and I'm not just saying that because this is my show. I'm kind of an expert when it comes to content. Still to come on the show this evening, Joe Martinez of Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue for his third installment of the 2023 Barbecue Central Show's Podumentary, which is not a word, and then we'll close out the show with Daniel Vaughn and his quarterly visit from Texas Monthly, tmbbq.com, his website. I would give you Joe's website, but he does not have a website. I'm sure he's working on that. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. And we also have a feed over on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. There's also a YouTube poll question of the week, which is this. Listening to Mike Grunwald last week has changed your opinion of cell-cultivated meat, and currently 82% of you now are saying no. It has not changed your mindset. 18% of you, though, are saying yes. You're open to it. I think Mary Kressler said it right. I'm interested. It has peaked. I'm not going to just give it a hard no. I'm going to give it a shot. We'll follow it. We'll see. It's interesting, is what she's saying. By the way, I got this message coming in from Brian Veestrom. In talking with Sean and Mary while they were doing the interview, they should be sharing earbuds. Brian, the funny thing to that is, as I was sound checking them last night, they were sharing earbuds. That's right. One going here, one going here. It was very cute. But they were able, I don't know if they put some kind of a splitter in there so they could have their own earphones, because as you could see, they were working one microphone. As a host, I certainly appreciate the fact that they were diligently taking turns going into the mic, making sure that proximity effect was happening with that microphone, and they sounded great, and great interview. So if you missed it here as you're joining us in the second hour, you'll get the podcast tomorrow. Hour number 1 tomorrow, so you'll get both Sean and Mary, and then you will also get Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com, and the second hour will be up on Thursday, and we'll talk about the best moments of right now, actually. So coming up, this Friday on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less. If you can believe episode 300. We're taking you back to September 29th, 2015. The creator of a barbecue team and also a line of barbecue products under the name Unknown Barbecue, and their pitmaster Jason Whitcomb was a guest of mine September 29th of 2015, and he is being featured on episode 300 this coming Friday. And if you missed it, I said episode 300! Look, what can I say about John Solberg, my executive producer, best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less? This whole thing started at the beginning of a year, 2018, I believe it was. And I knew that the concept was good, something that made sense to me, didn't know how I was going to be able to execute while continuing to do all the show stuff for the Tuesday show and then bring on a new podcast. But who am I to trust anybody with anything that I do from a quality assurance standpoint, an audio standpoint, fidelity standpoint? Only one person, that's John Solberg, and I reached out to him, and he said, yeah. I said, I want to pay you a pittance, and here's the concept. It was loose at best, and he's really picked it up and run with it. The shows have gotten better and better each and every week. As we enter our 6th year of Best Moment Show, again, started in January of 2018, I'm excited to hear them and excited to hear what he mines out of the archives. And remember, the full archives have finally been reconnected and or unlocked. So it goes all the way back to February of 2008. I was looking through the spreadsheet of shows to come, and I spied a Dan from Wauchula episode coming up in a few weeks. Look, for the longest time fans that are out there, and I don't know if there's anybody out there that recalls, maybe a Michael Savino, he might stretch all the way back. Maybe a Phil White. Uh-oh. Phil, how are you if you're still listening? From Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. Phil White. Trying to remember some of those early fans of the show and if they've made it all the way. Maybe a Sam Hayes. There's been a couple other folks that have reached out through email over the years saying, hey, been with you since the beginning. The audience has changed, no doubt. People fall in and out of love with hot fire or live fire. I don't get that myself. I'm in love with it, and I'm been in love with it for as long as I've been doing the show. But Dan from Wauchula was somebody that called the show. He was calling in for the sole purpose of trying to see how long I would take his nonsense until I hung up on him, dropped the hammer on him, if you will, a la Jim Rome. And all of a sudden, one day he disappeared, never to be seen from again. So that's coming up in a few weeks. But I do want to say to John, thank you for the years of service to the show, producing the very best parts of a longer interview. I wouldn't trust anyone else to do the show. And when you quit, I don't know what I'm going to do, but we'll ride it out as long as we can. You're the best. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. By the way, John flies under the radar as an expert in this industry. Let me run down a quick list of John's accomplishments and or expertise. And these are all true. This isn't me marking out to John in a long, drawn-out way. I can do that all day, every day of the week, because I think John is an incredible human being. John is a jack of all trades and a master of all. Yes. Social media savvy? Yes. Published reviewer of barbecue and grilling products, both where he is named as the reviewer and as a ghost writer for other big names where he is not noticed. Yes. The names I could rattle off would blow your mind. I'm not saying they're passing off his reviews, but they have engaged John to do reviews where he is not named. Is John a barbecue pitmaster? Yes. Is John a grill master? Yes. Does John make his own lump charcoal? Yes. Quality guest for any live fire show to have on? Yes. Trust me, the list goes on. So know this. You might think of John as a producer of the best moments of the Barbecue Central show and a great monthly guest on the show, but he is far more than that. And as a personal aside, I have few friends that are as fiercely loyal and dependent as John. So, John, thank you for being you. I appreciate you, and you are a valued person in my life, and we congratulate you on 300 episodes of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes. By the way, you can subscribe to the podcast feed by going to thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. And don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or a segment again that you might feel has been lost in these extensive archives, reach out to John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com and let him know what you would like to hear. As I had mentioned on the way out of the first hour, this coming Saturday, if you're going to be around, even if you're not going to be around, make plans to be in Hartville, Ohio for the 2023 Hartville Hardware Grill Fest. On the Big Green Egg, Captain Ron doing live demos. On the Weber side of things, Mike Lang from Another Pint Please is going to be doing live demos. On the Traeger side, a crowd favorite, the inimitable BBQ is going to be doing live demos. And I'm going to be live emceeing all damn day. A fun day filled with competition and learning. But most of all, huge deals on everything that's in their barbecue and grilling section, along with representatives from many of the brands that they carry to answer all your questions. Make sure you're buying what's best for you. You're not going to believe the setup that they have going on here. Tents are going way out into the parking lot now. A lot of partners showing up, a lot of know-it-alls, a lot of big shots. You're going to have the best time of your life this year, this coming Saturday in Hartville. So if you're within a 10-hour driving radius, make plans to converge to Hartville this coming Saturday, where you will see me and Mike Lang and Diva. At a minimum, did I mention the Pizziola Day Pizziolas is going to be there? Matt Frampton. What? Are you not pumped up for this thing? You better be coming. Are you kidding me? Did I mention I'm going to be there all day? Yes. Come on. All right. Our pal, Joe Martinez from Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue, the 2023 focus of our Barbecue Podumentary is up next, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central show.
I can't believe that Grill Fest is already upon us. Holy moly. This is exciting. Before we get to Joe, this portion being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 3 sizes, a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com. Tell them the Barbecue Central show sent you. And if you're still interested in the PBX special, write in an email to them or contact them through social media. Tell them you're still interested. If they have them in stock, they will give you the deal. $2.99 shipped to your door for the biggest cooker that they got. Doesn't get any better than that. Kicking off the second hour tonight, the owner and operator of Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue food trailer in El Paso, Texas. He has been the focus of the 2023 Podumentary series, and he is here for the third of 4 quarterly appearances, and he is sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly of operating a barbecue food trailer. Outside of the business, of course, he continues to be a prolific YouTube creator who generates some very impressive content, so we're happy to welcome back our pal, Joe Martinez. Joe, before we get into talking about the latest installment of the Podumentary, let's get your take on the YouTube poll question of the week. Listening to Mike Grunwald's last week interview on cell-cultivated meat has changed your opinion on it, yes or no? Joe, I can't hear you. Unmute. Are you there? Joe, are you there? I can't hear you. Are you there now? Hello? Oh, dear. Well, we're going to wait for Joe to reconnect. What's insanely crazy about this is that 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, Joe and I did a sound check. We did. He sounded great. When it comes showtime, no. This is bizarre. Do you want me to sing to you while Joe reconnects? I can't tell if he's just hovering about. Doesn't look like his eyes have changed, so I'm going to assume he's rebooting the computer or doing some other nonsense. Anyway, we have a little background music playing here. Come and see me this Saturday at Hartville Hardware Grill Fest. Mike Lang is gonna be there cooking on a Weber Live. Captain Ron's gonna cook on the Big Green Egg too. And then there's BBQ. Daniel Bennett's gonna be cooking on the Traeger, yeah. She's got one demo, but then she's got another cooking steak and other stuff. Where it happened to Joe Martinez? He's gone. His computer must take a long time to reboot. And we sound checked, as I said we did, at 8:30 tonight. Somehow I got onto Joe after talking about Hartville Hardware Grill Fest. Be there on Saturday. A Franklin barbecue pit will be there too. You can touch it, you can touch it, you can touch it, you can touch it. It's going to be great. Hey! All right, I mean, how long can one man possibly think of trying to make up these music? I mean, outrageous. Look, what other show are you going to be listening to where we have a technical issue with the guest? You can see Joe is falling asleep at the microphone right here. Wait, Joe, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can, but I don't think your mic is on.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Hang on one second.
Wow. All right.
Man, we tested this too.
I was just singing a whole song about it.
Let's see here.
Here we go. Joe?
There you go.
No. Tap the
Nothing?
mic. Tap the mic. No. Still the computer mic.
Huh,
Are you in the gear cog setting?
Yeah.
And you're hitting reconnect with that microphone?
Yep.
Oh, we got a winner. Just
go.
changed. There we go.
Oh, man. Sorry about that, Gary.
Yeah, I was just singing all about Hartville Hardware coming up, and then somehow I transitioned into singing about how we did a sound check at 8:30 tonight. Everything was sounding great, and boy, oh boy, I'm like, how long does the guy gotta make up a song off the top of his head to Milt Buckner's Robin's Nest? I mean, that takes some real chutzpah and talent. You're not getting that anywhere else. But
no kidding.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. So last time, wait, we didn't get the answer here because the mic was effed up. YouTube poll question of the week. Listening to Mike Grunwald last week changed your opinion on cell-cultivated meat, yes or no?
I am on the minority. I'm saying yes.
Yes, all right. Well, currently 18% of us minorities are saying that sounds weird when you say it out loud, are saying yes, right. We are definitely at least interest piqued, if nothing else. And we're not going to just summarily take a shit on it. Last time you were on, Joe, we talked. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think a lot of us tried that when the Beyond Meat came out. You know, a lot of us were sketchy, and I think a lot of us tried it.
Yeah.
You know.
Last time you were on, we talked about day one sales and then 3 months out, So in an effort to kind of get caught up to some degree, from month 4 until present day, what got easier about operations from a day-to-day standpoint?
Well, the first 3 months were great. The second quarter, or January through March, sales actually slowed down. We were in the middle of winter. Paso does get pretty cold. We got some snow, and because we're in a food truck park, our customers have to sit outside. And barbecue is one of those things that it is best served hot. So the minute you hand it to a customer, your tray, your beautiful barbecue platter, it like instantly gets cold. So yeah, and a lot of things have changed. Obviously, from April on to today, things have gotten better. We sold out every day in March, but January and February were extremely tough. And it was, it really, a lot of things did change because, when I first opened, I didn't understand food cost. I didn't understand payroll percentages and stuff like that. So because we were slower than normal, that gave me the opportunity to really take a step back and say, okay, why am I paying so much for this product? Where can I get it, a similar product, a good quality product, at a lesser price? The one thing I'll tell you is I will never sacrifice the quality of the product. I won't ever go from example, from Prime to Select just because I can get it for $2 cheaper per pound. I want equal or better at a good price. And because we were slow, that really gave me the opportunity to take a look at food cost and stuff. And my food cost, I'll tell you, was in the low 40s.
Wow. And
for a lot of folks that don't understand food cost, a great way to look at it, let's say your food cost is at 42%. That means that for every dollar that you're generating in business, 42 cents of that is going towards purchasing the food and supplies to run your business. And I know cents doesn't, cents doesn't, 5 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but where my food cost is today at 34%, it's a huge difference.
Yep.
That's the difference of you being profitable or not being profitable.
If you could, you don't want to sacrifice. You want the quality where you're at the same or a better price. As you said, you could go to a Select meat and just outright pay less. Would you do that if you could produce a better product, or does having a Select brisket strictly prohibit you from producing a similar product to the customer?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, the Select brisket has its place in the barbecue world, I guess. And if you're going to do chopped beef or something where marbling and moisture is not that important because you're chopping it up. But the quality of the briskets that we're using, I mean, we're using Creekstone briskets. It's it's a well marbled brisket. The quality is consistent, but it's expensive. But I will never, ever go down to a Select brisket. I just won't do that to the customer because from an eating experience standpoint, it's not good.
What's labor been like?
That's one thing, Greg. The labor has been probably my lowest expense running the business, but because I've kept it that way. It's been my brother and myself and a cashier. And, my daughter was our cashier, and she started school and is in orchestra and mariachi, and said that she didn't want to work anymore because of school. So I was like, uh-oh. So now I had to hire somebody, right? So I've got a cashier now, and it's just been us three the entire time. But, I've quickly realized, kind of fast forwarding to today, I hired a chef, for the very first time. And
what does that mean? You've hired a chef. What does he do?
She. so, I think that my barbecue is not going to change. Okay. The barbecue is going to remain the same, but I think that, if you're in anywhere near the barbecue, community, you know that barbecue has changed and is changing almost daily. So to up your barbecue game, you've got to get creative with certain dishes. So it's not the same old, same old. And I think, adding a trained chef, really opens a door to play around with sides or desserts, or maybe the way that we, currently fix something up. She'll come up with a better way to do it. Just get creative. You've heard, a lot of us have heard that term of new school barbecue. That's that new school barbecue. That's what it's about. It's getting creative. It doesn't have to be beans and macaroni and cheese and coleslaw all the time. It can be a different side that, customers might be attracted to.
Like what?
I'll tell you one thing that we're going to start playing with this week. So for example, mac and cheese. What can we do to mac and cheese to kind of amp that up a little bit? So we are going to mold our mac and cheese into kind of hockey pucks and bread them. I don't want to give the recipe away because it's not out there right now.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be breading it and not frying it. We're gonna be searing it and serving that as a side. So we're still playing around with it. But again, this chef just started with me, and she's already coming up with ideas on adding more sides or improving our sides.
Is she a contractor of sorts where she works for you, with you for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days out of the month, or so many hours out of the month she's allotted to you to come up with these creative ideas? How does that work?
No, so she's an extra person, obviously, and that's going to help take the workload off of myself and my brother. So she'll be helping out with that. But because we have so much more help, she has the opportunity to play around with recipes. But she's a full-time employee. You've
hired a full-on employee, a chef.
Yep.
Wow,
a chef. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's something I have always wanted. To be honest with you, you take a look at some of the top barbecue joints in Texas and across the United States. A lot of people have talented chefs that are out there coming up with these, maybe a new sausage flavor, or a new side, as I mentioned before. And I think that, again, that's gonna help me as I continue this barbecue journey.
What's a chef run these days?
Expensive, man. It's I'm still a small business, Greg, but
yeah,
the one thing that I promise, my brother and even my cashier, Autumn, that they're going to grow with me. Autumn is my cashier right now, but as I, hopefully in the very near future, transition into a brick and mortar, Autumn could be something else for me, some sort of manager, maybe managing the cashiers or something. And same thing's going to happen with my brother and my chef, as like with any job. I mean, if you move up in the business, you want to bring those good people with you. And I firmly believe in that. And those people that are with me now will, they'll be taken care of as I continue to grow.
What's the financial fitness of Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue right now?
We are on track to make $250,000 the first year of business, which, it's easy to figure that out. If you figure out, you're generating $250,000 in business, you take, if your food cost is 35%, you can take $35,000 right off the top of that. And, then you calculate payroll and everything else. There's not a whole lot left, but
I think that food cost is more like $65,000. If my math is right.
I'm sorry, you are correct. So, so you figure out you have to, we're in a food truck park, and that is crippling me right now, because our customers are having to eat outside, and we got hit. I don't know if you've kept up with the weather in Texas, but we had over 68 days over 100 degrees, and it gets really hot. And customers, if you're working a 9-to-5 job and you get an hour for lunch, you don't want to go out there and sit in the sun and enjoy your lunch. You want to sit in a nice comfy restaurant, if you will. So, we're doing everything that we possibly can, but financially, we're paying the bills, Greg. We're, where I'm at, it's costing us $700 a month to park my trailer there. That includes water and electricity and all that stuff. But, we're paying the bills, we're getting paid, but as a business generating and making money, the business itself, it's not. But it's enough to pay everybody, to pay the bills. And there is a little bit left over to, reinvest into the business. That's what I've been doing. If we need something, I reinvest in that money into the business.
What's the wife think at this point?
I think as I mentioned earlier in the last interview, I think I'd mentioned, my wife calls me a hobby jumper, and she knows that,
this is a big hobby
if
to
I
be jumping from, right?
It is, leaving that corporate job and starting a food truck, she probably thought I was crazy at first, but because I'm so aggressive in everything that I do, I think she trusts me into making the right decision and knowing that, I am not, there's no plan B, Greg. This is it. We got to make this work. And I think that she knows me well enough that I'm going to make it work. There's other income that we have coming in, obviously, through my YouTube channel, et cetera, and other things that I've got going on. But, the business is my full-time job. That's what I'm doing. And it's going to get even, it's going to be a bigger part of me as we set to open up a brick.
What kind of a time frame are you looking at getting out of the trailer park and going into a brick and mortar?
I'll tell you this. I will not spend another winter inside of a food truck. So winter, we're coming up to autumn now, and winter's, following really close behind that. Hopefully, I found a location. I'm just negotiating with the current gentleman that's in that restaurant. He's gonna. I went and saw the place yesterday with my chef and took inventory of what he's going to leave behind. Tables and what he's going to take. And obviously we have to. We're going to have to buy a bunch more stuff to get going, but it's going to be hopefully here in the next couple of months, God willing.
We're going to jump ahead a bit here in the timeline because the guest coming on behind you is Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor. You were included in the Texas Monthly's top 25 new up-and-comer barbecue list, whatever it's called. What benefit did you see and how quickly from being included on that list?
So, yeah, back in June the 3rd, Daniel Vaughn came, and it was the very next weekend. I started to get new customers, local customers and customers from out of town. And it was almost like every customer, hey, we saw your write-up on Texas Monthly. Congratulations. So it brought on a new group of customers that didn't know I even existed, that were local. I had customers driving from the west side of town, and customers from out of town that are making trips just to come eat barbecue at my place. I'll tell you this quick story. There was even one guy from Dallas that calls me and says, hey, I just want to make sure that you're going to be open on this day. And I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah, well, I'm going to go. I follow Daniel Vaughn really close, and I'm a list guy. And wherever Daniel Vaughn goes, whoever he puts on that list, I'm going to hit every single spot.
Wow.
Well, this guy shows up, and, he wants to drink with me and hang out in the trailer. I mean, just a really cool guy. But, it brings people like that, barbecue enthusiast, for this guy to drive in from Dallas, stop by a few barbecue places on the way in, but come and see our place as well. That's pretty rewarding, and again, it brought in customers from more local customers and more out of town customers as well.
All right, so let's go ahead and do the mashup now as we welcome in our pal Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly. Wait, that's the wrong one. I got it. Stand by. All right, here we go. Daniel, does the mic work?
The mic works.
The mic works. All right, so you can see we got Smokin Joe just to the left of you there if you're looking at the screen.
Yeah, Joe, how you doing?
Good, Daniel. How are you, buddy?
Great.
Daniel,
Awesome.
what brought you to El Paso, or how do you find out about Smokin' Joe to decide you want to? I mean, look, I'm not telling anybody or anything that you don't know. Texas is a pretty big state, so a hike over to El Paso is indeed a hike.
Yeah, it is a hike. On that particular trip, I flew there, which, if you're from Dallas, getting out to El Paso, that drive's a long one. But no, it was Richard from Desert Oak Barbecue who told me about Smokin' Joe's, and told me that it was. I think he first told me when the trailer opened up, and really encouraged me to go out there.
When you hear Joe's account of as soon as he's mentioned in one of your articles, and he's got dudes from Dallas, coming up and wanting to hang out with him because he's a disciple of Daniel Vaughn and your lists. Is there a magnitude of weight that you feel on how you put these out, or do you really get to feel the weight of what you're putting out and how people react to certain restaurants?
I don't know if I really think about it that way. I look for people like Joe who are putting in the hard work and, who are doing it sometimes without much reward. And I'm happy to certainly get the word out there that it's a place worth stopping in for, worth traveling for. And, I love to hear that places like that get the support that they deserve.
What does Joe need to do to continue to flourish, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think getting that brick and mortar like he was talking about, that's good news to me. So next time I come back, it's not going to be in the El Paso sun on one of those picnic tables. But like you said, that winter gets brutal as well. So, he sort of gets the worst of it there in the winter and the summer. So I certainly think the barbecue has the quality that is going to bring enough people to support that brick and mortar. So I'm happy to see that that's coming.
Joe, what do you want to promote, or where can people find you if they want to check you out tomorrow or this coming weekend or whenever you're open?
Yeah, so I post my hours on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram at Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue. I'm also on YouTube and Facebook. You can check me out there, and you can always call me and make sure I'm going to be open. But I'm open Fridays and Saturdays from 11 until we sell out.
Joe, we'll see you for installment number 4 here towards the end of the year. Appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Daniel.
And that's Smokin' Joe or Joe Martinez. And I would give you a website, but he doesn't have it. So find him, as he said, very active on Instagram at Smokin' Joe's Pit. Is that an issue? Is that a liability, Daniel, for a place to not have a website? Or can you get away if you have a decent social media following and not have it?
Yeah, I think if you've got a decent social media following, there's no need for the website. I guess for me, the pet peeve is when you have a Facebook page and you don't fill it out completely, right? You've got all that information that you can share with people on a free page. Just put it all in there. Like, what's your name? When did the place open up? What are your hours? Make sure you get those right. So, yeah. But a website, it costs money. A Facebook page really doesn't. So, I think as long as you get yourself out there in some way, but more often than not, it's really, as far as me finding places, it's on Instagram. People tagging me on Instagram. It's a lot easier to tag people on Instagram. It's a lot easier to also just be able to post more often, right? It's not always going to show up in the Facebook feed with that Facebook algorithm. But I follow a lot of people on Instagram, but I'm looking at the barbecue stuff most often, and so it's the barbecue stuff that is always at the top of the page.
Daniel Vaughn joining us here on the show. tmbbq.com, the website, on X at BBQ Snob, also on Instagram as well. There's a YouTube poll question of the week that I would like to ask you about as we get. It's X. I mean, that's what it is.
I know.
I don't know if you listened to it or not, but I had an interview with Mike Grunwald last week, who is a journalist by profession, a highly distinguished, award-winning journalist, and he's really taken a fancy to following this cultivated meat, alternative meat type stuff. And we talked not ad nauseum, but certainly dove into the subject of cell-cultivated meat. And I'm wondering, from whatever you know, do you have a for or against the continuance of cell-cultivated meat? Do you care about it, yes or no?
No, I don't really care much about it. I mean, no, I mean, go ahead. Like, it's not gonna hurt me. I'll probably try it, just like I've tried just about anything else that's out there. But is it ever going to be an answer to whole muscle meats? And I just don't think that it's ever going to get there, right? I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where it really replicates what a steak can provide, or certainly what a brisket can provide.
Do you care about Embers TV?
Embers TV, of course, yes.
You like that?
Yeah, yeah.
You subscribe?
Yes, I am a subscriber.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Just because a lot of those guys are Texas, or you're a fan of Live Fire? I'm just wondering what the end is for you.
Well, it's something I can expense. I haven't.
Indeed.
I haven't really dove too deeply into it. I can tell you that right now. I spend most of my time out there on the road eating barbecue and, and writing about it as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's fun to catch up with like a different side of people, but, yeah, for the most part, for me, it's about the food. It's about what you're serving at the restaurant.
The internet loves lists, and Texas Monthly has its own list that appears to be universally revered as the barbecue list, both inside and outside of Texas, by the way. Southern Living released their 2023 top 50 barbecue list a week ago to this very day. Any thoughts on the list?
Well, I mean, they've got Texas at number 1. So it snows barbecue. So that certainly makes a lot of sense. I think, but overall, my thoughts on that list are the same thing that I shared with Robert Moss when we shared dinner together in Charleston, which is like, leave Texas out of it. Just like do the rest of the South a favor and leave Texas out of it. Like, I'm serious. It's not because I'm feeling territorial about it or whatnot, but it's like you make a list like that of the South, and I don't know, what is it, 17, 20 places in Texas. And then that's probably still not enough. But, just leave Texas to Texas Monthly and let more places in the South really shine through that list, right? And really get that recognition by being on that list. I think people who love Texas barbecue and are coming to travel to Texas, if they're looking for where to find the best barbecue, yeah, some of them might look to that Southern Living list, but I think first they're going to look to Texas Monthly's list and start from there, right? We cover the state all the time. We are, constantly out there searching for new places. So, yeah, and I think too, if you look at that Southern Living list, I think our list is much more about trying to find what's new and interesting, and I think Robert's list is much more about it's about nostalgia, right? It's about giving credit to some of those legendary places and the places that have a really special experience around them as well. Whereas our list, we're looking, it's really more about the food that you're being served. It's really about the barbecue.
Is it more of a detractor for him in the fact that he is the singular person putting together the list, traveling to these places? I mean, he's one man covering whatever the hell the South is. So I'm still suspect on that myself. But you have yourself, a team, you have a whole methodology of how you put together the Texas Monthly's top 50 list, but he's doing it on his own. Is that a detriment?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they don't give him any support. He's got to go out there and do it himself. It's not his full-time job. So he's got to do it he's got to do it when he has free time. We spend 4 years in between our top 50 barbecue list, and that's just for Texas. And a lot of that reason is because we want to be able to, my job is a scouting mission in between those lists, right? I'm out there constantly looking for new barbecue joints that might have the opportunity to be on that list, right? And so if you're not spending all that time out there finding the new spots, then the list starts to get repetitive, right? Because you're just constantly going back to those old spots to see if they're still good. And I think if you look at that Southern Living list from year to year to year, there's not much change. There's not a whole lot of turnover. And when you look at our list from, every 4 years, people get surprised, like, oh my gosh, there's, 20 new spots on the list. And it's like every time that happens since 1997, every time we put on a new list, there's been huge turnover. And I think that is because we wait those 4 years and we do reevaluate all the old spots right along with all those new spots. And, so we don't really give a lot of deference based on the fact that you were on the last list or not. It really doesn't matter that much.
Daniel Vaughn joining us here on the show, tmbbq.com, his website, if you would like to read what he is writing about and up to. You can also follow him on social media at BBQ Snob. There's a book that's either out or coming out written by Joe Haynes, a name who I've been familiar with almost as long as I've been doing the show, when he was running, I think it was Obsessive Compulsive Barbecue or whatever the blog was. And it's called From Barbecue to Barbecue. And for the people listening on podcast, they don't understand, but there's two spellings of barbecue one way and barbecue a second way. It's the untold history of an American tradition. Without giving too much away, what's the overarching angle here with the book?
Well, the gist of Joe's book is that barbecue, as we know it, and certainly as it was known for hundreds of years, was developed in the U.S. and in what is now the United States. Essentially, he looks at the idea of the Caribbean origin theory, the idea that barbecue that was practiced in the U.S. Was migrated in from the Caribbean because of there's many details to it, but he basically looks at that Caribbean origin theory and rips it apart as far as it's the connection. There's certainly a connection of those words like barbacoa to barbecue, but as far as the cooking method that they were using there and the cooking method that developed in what is the U.S., there isn't, there are a whole lot of very important differences. And for Joe, his argument is that the barbecue that was cooked in the United States for centuries, which is digging a trench in the ground, building a fire in that trench, cooking those wood down to coals, and then putting whole animals or large cuts of meat over that fire, and mopping it with a mop sauce. That was done exclusively in the United States, in the area that is now the United States, and was recognized as barbecue, a food first in the United States, not barbecue like the sticks that were used to cook the barbecue or the event, but really the food itself was come to be known as barbecue in the United States and was really recognized. That style of cooking was the only thing recognized as barbecue for hundreds of years. So his argument is basically barbecue was really developed in the United States.
Joe, certainly an accomplished author. There was a book previous to this was basically laying claim to the fact that Southern-style barbecue was born out of Virginia and Virginia solely, and every other place since has been benefiting from Virginia's ability to put barbecue on the map when it did all, somehow it's been washed away in the history books or something like this, but he has made sure to bring that to the forefront. So I assume he brings a similar storytelling ability or a fact-finding ability to this book as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly packed with facts. Like I joked with him when I talked to him. I wrote about the book after I read it, and I did it after I talked with him. And I was like, this is not a page turner, and it's very in depth. Like the fact finding that he goes through and the clarity in which he in longevity in which he goes through all the different sources that he went back to and found it's all in the book. Like there are no short arguments in that book. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't really go deep into it's got to be Virginia, right? He's saying that the barbecue, as it came to be known, like that, the food was as a result of creolization. It was a blending of cultures of the enslaved, of Native Americans, and of Europeans, and the blending of that culture developed this method for cooking meat that became barbecue, and that likely happened in around the same time in many different locations across the U.S. At the time. So not necessarily just in Virginia.
What's the state of barbecue in Texas right now? How's it feeling and looking to you?
Well, I mean, it's thriving, that's for sure, as far as still the number of places that are opening. But I'm working on an article right now, and there's been some chatter online about about how tough this summer has been for businesses, and I do think it is something that's like that's sort of restaurant wide, as far as a lack of profitability, especially compared to the year before, over this hot summer in Texas. And I think it's hit barbecue particularly hard. A big heavy meal like that is not something you really want when it's 110 degrees out. And an article that I'm working on right now, I mean, my thesis is basically that, this bubble has been pumped up in Texas, and, more new places and more new spots all over the state, big cities, small towns, tiny towns, in between the tiny towns, everywhere. And, I think that bubble's about to burst, right? I think that, I just talked to, I just went out to a little town of Winsboro, Texas, and I had some great barbecue out there on Saturday. But Winsboro's a tiny town in East Texas that's 20 minutes off the interstate, and there were 3 different barbecue options in that town serving on Saturday. And that's just not going to last. I mean, there's no way that the town of Winsboro is going to be able to support that. And it's going to be really hard to draw enough people into Winsboro, which, I mean, nothing against the fine town of Winsboro, but it doesn't have enough going for it to bring in a huge amount of people every Saturday just to be there, right? Those barbecue joints have got to be their destination if that's how those places are going to end up, being supported altogether. So I just don't think it's going to happen, right? And it's tough to think about that, 1 or 2 of those places might have to end up closing, but I think that is going to happen. That's going to start happening statewide. I mean, if I get one more email about, hey man, you got to come check out my place. I'm only open on Fridays, or I'm only open on Saturdays, or I'm only open on Fridays and Saturdays. I mean, to me, that just means like you're probably not going to last very long, right? Like you've determined that you have enough time, energy, and money to do this once a week, which means you probably have another job.
Yeah.
Which means what, and what all they're doing at that point is really contributing to the saturation that we have right now. And yeah, so I just don't see a future where all these new spots, all these pop-up spots, all these weekend spots are going to be able to are going to be able to find enough people to eat their barbecue on a regular basis.
If food costs weren't as extreme as they appear to be right now, I was talking with Joe, obviously, segment before you, and he was talking about how at one point it was bleeding into 43% of, food costs. He's trimmed it down to like 34% or something along these lines. And then Kevin Kelly did an interview with the guy that runs Heavy Maze, and he was talking about how crazy food prices too, and how that actually affects the business. That was a great interview, by the way, if you're interested in hearing the inner workings of a really popular Texas barbecue restaurant and why on the surface you think everything's great. He really goes into the depths about it's really not that great and why that is. It's a great listen and a great watch depending on what you like to do. If the meat or the food cost wasn't as extreme, would it be easier to have some of these destinations like you were talking about subsist 2 or 3 different places then?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the meat costs are a big deal, but I think there's a few things going on, and one of those is that the prices for all those goods have gone up, not just the meat portion, right? So it's the plates, the plasticware, the butcher paper, the aluminum foil, like all these things that you need, the wood. Because of this sort of saturation we're talking about, these things, things like wood are, there's more competition for it, for good, like dry barbecue wood. And then as far as the meat prices go, these, let's just tell it like it is, right? I mean, you have all these meat companies who realize that they could charge a whole lot of money throughout the pandemic. They realized they could raise these prices, and it's just like gas prices. They're going to raise them, and they're going to bring them back down a little bit. They're not going to ever bring them back down to those the prices that we are used to seeing. Now that's just meat in general, right? But you take brisket, and then we have this added problem of it's it's only a problem as far as the economics go. The great thing is all over the country, you get incredible Texas barbecue.
Yep.
And I've been doing a lot of traveling over the summer, eating Texas style barbecue all over the country. But the problem is you have like 1,000 new restaurants that open up who are all serving brisket that used to be this thing that was really just in Texas. And now you've just got all this competition for brisket, and I just don't ever see brisket prices coming back down to what's considered, a cheap cut. Now I'm gonna bleed this in quickly to another pet peeve in the whole, like, poor man's burnt ends. Beef chuck, that's not a poor man's burnt end. Beef chuck is more expensive than brisket. A poor man's burnt end is still made out of brisket. Brisket is cheaper than chuck roast.
Pet peeve number one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, number one. I mean, Texas being in that Southern Living list, that's number one.
Maybe they'll kick this Texas off the Southern Living. I mean, I assume they're catering to the subscription base that is living in Texas, and that's why they continue to do it. And like I said, it's bizarre how they geographically weave the South into, as they cover. So I think we were talking off air. I said, they say Kentucky is in the South. The Kentucky borders Ohio, so why not Ohio be part of the South as well? I mean, I don't care one way or the other. And then Maryland is also part of the South, and that seems to be pretty north to me, but what do I know? So it's a business is a business is a business. Aside from the article that you're working on, anything else you have coming up or you want to promote? You're going to be at the Hartville Hardware Grill Fest on Saturday in Hartville, Ohio?
Not going to make it. I wasn't able to find a great flight.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's see. I'll be at the Texas Tribune Festival on Saturday from 11 to 2 in Austin, talking with Aaron Franklin about barbecue and a bit more about these barbecue economics. And then, of course, we've got our big barbecue festival, the Texas Monthly Barbecue Festival, coming up in Lockhart, first weekend in November. It'll be on Saturday and Sunday, and tickets are available now.
All right. So look for those if you're going to be around, and we'll get a recap on those next time you're inbound here on the show. Always appreciate the time, and we'll see you again.
All right. Great to be with you.
You got it. Daniel Vaughn right there. TMBBQ.com, his website. So check it out if you'd like to hear what's going on in Texas and in the live fire world. Just not always about Texas. Mostly, but not always. Listen up, gang. Our friend at Big Papa Smokers has something special for you, just the listeners of this show. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pitmaster or not, Big Papa Smokers, your one-stop shop for all things barbecue. From their championship rubs, mouthwatering sauces, essential accessories, they've got what you need to take your food to the next level, both on the competition scene and in the backyard. Here's the cherry on top, offering $10 off your next purchase of $50 or more when you use promo code REMPE at checkout, REMPE. You can use Big Papa's Sweet Money to evaluate your ribs. You can put Desert Gold on your chicken or veggies. You can put Big Papa's Double Secret and see how that does magic with your steak. And again, don't forget to use promo code REMPE, REMPE, at checkout to claim your $10 off your next order of $50 or more. You can also check out the full recipes at cookingwithbigpapa.com. We're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Daniel Vaughn for joining us last segment. TMBBQ.com, his website. And if you're interested in picking up Joe Haynes' book about the history of barbecue and why it's uniquely here in this country and not a derivative of the Caribbean stuff like we've always heard, pick it up. From Barbecue to Barbecue, the untold history of an American tradition. I am efforting Joe Haynes on the show as well to talk about it, but I know Daniel had written an article about it recently, so happy to have him share his thoughts on it. All the way back in the first hour, we had Mary Kressler and Sean Martin from Vidulge.com. Successful first interview, I thought. Looking forward to having them back on the show here. And then we had Wes Wright from CookoutNews.com talking about a launch of a new and or replacement of a smoke fire called the Searwood. Second hour, Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue operator, Joe Martinez, in his third of 4 quarterly installments. In 2023, the focus of the Podumentary of this show, and then Daniel Vaughn closing the show out, tmbbq.com. Big show planned for you next week. In-studio guest for hour number 1 and hour number 2, Jason Baker from Green Mountain Grills. Yes! Derek Riches is set to join us 35 past the first hour. Embedded correspondence in the second hour. Jason Baker all show in studio. It's going to be crazy. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
Hi, this is Monroe Stoll. I'm from Stowe, Ohio. And you're listening to Barbecue Central.